Hello, welcome back to Single Mom on a Farm for my fifth question and answer. I can't believe I'm doing this many. I love curiosity though, so this is great. Thanks for sending me so many wonderful questions. Today I have a bunch of questions about like some chickens in our yard and some school questions and then some about Nathan. So we will see how many we get through, and I might have to stop it and do a sixth one if it's just getting too long. So the first question is, as a Mormon, do you have a year's stockpile of food? Could you answer that on one of your Q&As? Thank you. So no, I do not have a year's supply of food. I never really have. Our first house was just 761 square feet. It was really tiny. I know that's not a good excuse, that there are some wonderful people that still did a good job storing food for an emergency. They might put it under their beds and raise their beds up high. We had a water bed, so you couldn't like put food under it or anything. But I've just never liked a lot of extra stuff like in my closets, under my bed. I don't like that. So I didn't. And we had a garage that was detached from our house and very, very humid in Texas. So I didn't really want to store a bunch of food. And North Carolina was a little bit similar. 9 kids, and it was a 1664 square foot house. And I thought we'd only live there for 3 years and be moving. So I didn't really want to like invest in a whole bunch of food and then move it. And then our Utah rental house had a fabulous cold storage room. Utah houses are awesome for cold basements and like this whole cold storage room that are rodent proof, just amazing. And so we did have some good food storage there. People would give it to us when they were moving, or if they thought the foods might be 10 years old, maybe they didn't really want to use it or what have you. So we did get a lot of good food storage there. Never a year supply for all of us, no. But that was really great. And I do like the idea of having a year supply, or at least some, because like I don't like to store a lot of stuff. But I do believe as an excellent principle in being prepared. So like when COVID hit, I did not freak out at all. Like I knew we had several months worth of food in our cold storage, and we have 2 fridges. Like I'm always stocking up. I was never one of those people that just we're out of cheese, run to the store, we're out of eggs, run to the store. I'd rather borrow from a neighbor than do that. But I always just try to keep a backup eggs, backup what have you, in our fridges and freezers, cheese, extra food. And then I've also been really good at doing without. So I grew up in the country. My mom never ran to the store for things. If we didn't have it, we didn't make it, or we substituted. And it was a fun kind of adventure. I remember making like Reese's peanut butter cups. We have this cool recipe, and like we were out of graham crackers, so we tried saltines, and like they're a little bit salty. It didn't quite work out, but it was fun for us to just try it because like we weren't just going to run to the store and buy those to make this treat. And tons of substitutions. I learned them, and I learned from my mom. She always had extra food. She bought in bulk and put them in big containers, and so I feel like we hardly were ever out of food. We could run at least the staples, go back and get them. One time in Texas, I remember coming home from a trip. I had taken the girls to, I think Nathan came with us, to my house in California for Christmas. And when we got home, we're pretty much out of food, right? Because we had been gone for 3 weeks and we had eaten it, before we left. But Nathan took the car to medical school every day, and I didn't want to take him and, come home, use the car, go back and pick him up in the evening. And I just had this fun goal, see how long we could go without going to the store, without doing that, going anywhere. And so just one of those times. It's a fun little challenge to do for myself. And so I did. We made it for 3 weeks without ever going to the store. And this was when we had like hardly anything in our house. But I always had the staples. So I always had like the flour, the sugar, some pastas, rice, beans, things like that. I had powdered milk. We had oats. So I made my own bread. We did so much stuff, and it was just a fun challenge. And it gave me the confidence after that. I was probably like 22 or 23, that I could. We don't have to go to the store for things. Like we can make things last for a long time. We can make do, figure out what to eat. Of course, it was not. I'm sure it wasn't super duper healthy. Like we had canned fruit and frozen fruits and vegetables. The frozen broccoli and spinach and stuff to add to casseroles. But it was just really fun, creative way to be like, what kind of casserole can we make with the food that's in our freezer? What kind of meals can we come up with? So that was fun. And so I know that I can survive without running to the store a lot. And so I've always tried to have extra food. For one thing, just avoid running to the store and the extra money it costs, trips to town, you always end up buying impulse purchases every time you're in the store, so it's better to only go a couple times a month or maybe once a week than every other day. But I do believe in being prepared. So when COVID hit, like I said, we weren't really worried about everything. We had I had lots of cases of wheat that I was always grinding. Someone had given it to us, and so I was always grinding it for our bread. Anyway, I was just used to grinding my wheat and making my homemade bread. It had several twin packs of yeast. Like I just usually bought like 4 at a time because we made a lot of bread. And I remember being able to share with my neighbors and friends. Everyone was saying the yeast was out in all the stores. And so I was just like, hey, I got plenty of yeast. I'd just give them Ziploc bags of it. And it was fun to be able to have that to share. We had powdered eggs, we had powdered milk. When those things ran out, not a year's supply, but enough to last a couple months. And I knew that we wouldn't be panicking. And I feel like that's kind of an important principle, is to not panic if your electricity's out or what have you, that you know how to cook with things in your kitchen. If you don't have electricity, like eating canned chili kind of cold, and using powdered milk and eggs, using substitutions like flax seeds for eggs, using coming up with creative meals that maybe you wouldn't have, just throwing different pastas and things together to see what it comes up with, frozen, canned things. Doing without, just saying, hey, we're going to have the same meal for 3 nights in a row because this is what we have. We don't have extra, we're not going to go to the store and buy pizza today or whatever. So I feel like those are good skills that my mom taught me and that our church has kind of taught us, to just be sort of self-reliant and capable of like figuring it out yourself and not having to totally rely on the stores and freaking out if the stores are closed or they're not getting the shipments in of the foods that you usually eat, but figuring out what else you can feed your family. I hope that's a good answer for that one. But now that we are here, I should get some more food storage because we have plenty of storage space. But I just don't like food to go to waste, so I don't want to get like rodents or anything like that. But ours are in number 10 cans, our storage. But I would like to get a lot more wheat and dried apples and dried fruits and veggies for if we did have an extensive 3-week power outage, if we had the catastrophes that we see around the world. I think it's a great idea to at least have a couple months worth. I have thought and wondered if your farmland would be suitable for partly leasing out for stock grazing. Just thinking it would help bring in extra income. Yes, I got this question a lot also. And when we moved here, there were cows on our property. It's kind of hard to explain, but we've got our house and we have some like pastures on this side and pastures on this side. And so the cows had 2 lanes of electrical barbed wire fence going around, like all around the property, so that the cows could go on this pasture and around our house and out on that pasture. So they could just like walk back and forth all the time. Well, that made it really hard for us to like run in our front yard or run in our backyard or run in our side yards because they were electric fences all over the place. And it was also hard for us to go in the woods with our lawnmower and our cart to collect wood. Well, like I would go and chop it. So he's like, you have to go under the fences, or you have to find one that had a gate and like drive all around to get all of your wood loads. So that made it really difficult. It's always in the way. We're always running into it because it's hard to see, barbed wire. And several times we ran into it and got shocked. And once Caitlin got badly shocked, running into it, playing it dark, almost dark, like dusk, playing tag with the kids, and ran and cut herself really badly on the barbed wire and was like hanging by her shirt, and still has a scar and was getting electrocuted, shocked. We know it's not that high voltage, but getting a little shocked and very kind of traumatized for her. I think she's probably 10 or 11 or 12. And anyway, I was just like, I just don't like all these barbed wires. It's like confining us. And we came out to the country to like move, run around all over the place. So we did ask them if they would not have our cows either like just in the pastures and like not going around our house like that, but they didn't want to do that. So they took them off, but they weren't paying us anyway. So I said, I'd want a lot of money for them to have it in our front and backyards. But if they just wanted the pastures, then they could do that. But around here, nobody really pays. Well, I think some people do, but I haven't been able to get anybody to pay me to have their cows on my property or sheep or anything. Most everyone has plenty of property to put their animals on, so they don't want to lease it. So I do have one guy cutting it for hay, one of my pastures, but he keeps it and he just does it for free. And they feel like it is because otherwise I have to pay somebody to bush hog my pastures. And if I don't, it's going to just grow up in all these pine trees, all these wild blackberries, thorn trees, all kinds of stuff. So people who are mowing it for hay feel like they're doing me a favor to save me from bush hogging it or to growing ugly. So it's like they're keeping it up for me. So it's kind of tricky. Nobody's going to pay you to put their cows on very much. I mean, I did find one guy that does it. He just doesn't. I don't know if he's going to put his hair. I guess I could ask him again. He said he could, maybe someday. Anyway, so yeah, that would have been a great idea if I could get, a good price for it. That would be awesome. How do you keep the deer from eating your fruits and vegetables? Okay, then there's another question after that. So last year we just had really good luck. The deer just didn't really come here all summer. The year before they did. We do have a lot of marigolds around our garden and in our garden beds. So I put marigolds around so that they don't like get into the tomatoes and stuff. We have rosemary that repel deer. We planted a bunch of blue butterfly bushes. And so I wanted to plant even more like around our pumpkin patch because a couple years ago they were all into the pumpkins. They ate a lot of our pumpkins. So we're going to plant even more butterfly bushes. But last year we didn't have a problem. So I guess they just found enough food other places. But I don't have a great answer for that. But we had a lot of moles last year. So I want to get some mole traps this year or figure out repellents for moles because they were our biggest problem coming up and eating tomatoes and green peppers and stuff. And then squirrels are a big problem for our apple trees all fall. Well, like they start early. It's like July and August. They're eating the apples when they're just really little. So it went with nets on them. So we're going to try again this year, try to somehow figure out the squirrels. But yeah, animals can be a big problem on farm. It's hard. So if you have good tips, send them my way too. My mom has a terrible problem with deer where she lives. They come right up and eat all her rose bushes, and little plants and strawberries along her deck, like up on her deck, right in her front window. They've tapped on her windows before. They're very friendly there. Do you ever worry about Lyme disease? Yes and no. So first I wasn't. I grew up in the country. We got ticks. We learned how to pull them off our dog. Never really worried about it. And then, I saw someone on TV have kind of a documentary of a really bad experience with Lyme disease. So that kind of scared me. So yeah, it's kind of scary, but it's one of those things that you have to give to the Lord. Like I'm terrified of my teen drivers. I'm scared of a lot of things, of accidents, chopping up our thumbs, mostly driving. Like I said, it's a big number one cause of injuries and death, is car accidents. So I'm really worried about that, or just walking across the street and getting hit by a car. Lots of fears in the world, and I have to just give my fears to God and say, please don't let things happen. If they do, help me get through them. With Lyme disease, though, we have found ticks on us, and we have had 2 kids tested for Lyme disease, and they were positive, but it was also saying that they've had it in the past, so we didn't know if they had it at that time. But they were given antibiotics, and I'm told that it significantly reduces the long-term consequences of Lyme disease. But I have no experience about this, so I'm not the one to ask. Like I said, I'm scared of it, but I'm just hoping for the best. And it's not enough to prevent me from going camping and going places. Caitlin is the one that got Lyme disease, or she had a tick bite at a church girls camp, and I don't want to say she can't go this year or anything. I mean, the bugs, she wore bug spray, and sometimes they say bug spray is bad for you too. So what's worse, right? The bug spray or getting tick bites. So, but we got her the antibiotics, and it took a while for her recovery, but I think she's healthy now. I'm just praying that she doesn't have long-term chronic problems with it. So I try not to worry about it, but be protective, wearing the bug repellent and staying away. I try not to kind of stay away from the worst months. May and June are usually the worst months for playing in the woods and going camping and everything. Some chicken questions. Is chicken feed crazy expensive, or can they survive on garden scraps and free ranging? Chicken feed is not crazy expensive. Right now it's $8.99 for a 50-pound bag, so I feel like that's pretty doable. And then I think it's $14.99. That's just cracked corn. And then the hen layer is $13 or $14.99. So we usually just buy them both and kind of mix them together, and maybe buy them every other month. Especially in the winter, we tend to do some more cracked corn. It helps them stay warm. We've had a really cold winter, so we've been giving it to them more often. But it really depends on how many chickens you have. When we just started out with 6, and we weren't feeding them that much at all. Like there's so many bugs here and so much grass and foraging that they could do. We were buying it like every 3 months, and they were healthy, laying great eggs and everything. So I have heard of people who just like never buy chicken food. So I was like, I know it's doable. So you can try to look up those videos. I feel like they just only free range. And maybe I feel bad. I'm like, maybe they're not getting enough food. Maybe we should just put it out anyway. But we do give them our chicken scraps, and I think Caitlin gives them food almost every day or every other day in the winter, just pours it out, just tosses some out on the ground, kind of like, not like a vitamin, but, like just some extra, just in case they weren't getting a lot of food today. But they're sitting around a lot, so you know that they've been out pecking too if they're full enough to sit down and rest. But most of the summer, we don't have to feed them anything. And we don't, just because we have so much around here for them to eat. With the free ranging and so many acres. But again, it depends on how many chickens you have. You're getting like, if you have 30 or 40, then you might want to at least be supplementing them with some extra food. How long do they live? Oh, I should have asked Caitlin this. I'm not a chicken expert at all. So Caitlin is, and I would love to learn more about it. I would love to like have more chickens and know all their breeds and all their eggs and all that. I just haven't had time for that. I feel like it doesn't earn money, so I'm trying not to spend too much time on those kinds of hobbies right at this point in my life. But she knows a lot of it. They can live for several years. And when they stop laying, do you harvest them? We have not, but we had one that stopped laying, and then we've had one time we just got too many roosters, and so we gave them to our friend who does harvest them, because I do want them to go to good use. And I would love to harvest them. That's something that would be super awesome. It's like have a friend come over and bring some of their supplies and show me how to do it. I feel like you got to pay the friend or switch something, trade something. So I just haven't done that yet. But I would love to do that, because I think growing your own chickens would be awesome. But this friend raises meat birds and harvests them, and is just awesome at it. So we just gave them to her because we've been busy, and it's expensive if you're hiring someone to come help you, because chickens at the store are like $6 or $7, just to get your own chicken and cook it in the crock pot. So I haven't wanted to spend a lot of money. But I think it'd be worth it if I had like 10 or 20 of chickens, so you could all harvest all in one day and then fill your freezer. It'd be like worth it to pay somebody to come over and help you do it. It's not worth it if you just have like 2 old hens. But I would love to do it like in the the old days. We're reading Little Britches, and they're just like run out, grab a chicken, and harvest it and ate it that night. Like they didn't have to do like 20 at the same time. Pros and cons of roosters. They're supposed to protect the flock. Some people say they don't, that they hide when predators come. We've had good experience with our roosters, that they do make a lot of noise. They warn the hens, and I think that's really important, because they'll make these clucking sounds and dangerous sounds, and so all the hens will go hide under the deck or in the bushes, or they all just stop still and look to see if it's a hawk or whatever. So I think that's really important for the roosters. And we've had all friendly roosters. We finally got one that was kind of aggressive. But I wouldn't say aggressive, but when I was milking, he always just came up and pecked me. He just did not like me. And I got tired of it. I got irritable. I was just like, leave me alone. I'm just milking. And he just come behind me and just peck. Like, not attack me, but he just had a thing. And I had my coat. It was like every time I was wearing that coat. And when I'd run, he would like run after me, like try to nip at my heels and stuff. And I was like, I just like to run in the yard without worrying, is there going to be a rooster nipping at my heels? So we did give him to a friend, because he was a really good, I think he was our best protector of the hens. And so I think that's what, he was scared if I was running. He just wanted to nip at me in case I was dangerous or something like that. So we gave him to somebody who needed a really good protecting rooster. And then we've kept all of our really cuddly roosters. So our kids like to grab the roosters, and we're probably making them too friendly because they might not fight for the hens. But we did lose several roosters when the coyotes attacked, and so I think that they were protecting the hens, because they were the ones that were out there fighting. Predators and diseases, worms, lash eggs. I don't know what that means. So many questions. So yes, predators are always a problem. especially where we live, they're awful. So I don't have any advice for that. We have seen a raccoon out at the coop almost every night. We have a motion light by the coop, and we'll see it come on, and we can see a raccoon down there. So we're getting a raccoon trap. The chickens are already in it, but over the years we've had chickens. Yeah, we see a lot of predators. We've seen foxes, raccoons, skunks, opossum, um, and sometimes they get the chickens, and sometimes they're safe. So that's just kind of part of it. It'd be awesome to get a whole chain link fence with a chain link top or something. Something really, really predator proof. But we don't have the money for that. We haven't done that. So I don't know. Just do your best with that. Whatever you feel like is best. Okay, moving on to some school questions, and then I have a bunch of Nathan questions if I have time. If I may ask, why do you spend so much time on each individual state? Geography lessons in private public schools study the USA as a whole, not in depth for each state. I would think world events, geography of the continents would be a suggestion for future in-depth study. I don't think spending time in Iowa, Georgia, or other states would be beneficial for future knowledge. Seems like English, LA, and math would take precedence in teaching. Throw in a few science projects and you could be done. This is a question not to be mean or get nasty replies from others. Right. Yes. And I like this question. I really like people wanting to know the ins and outs of how other people do things and why they do it and how they do it, because this is how we all learn from each other. So this is great. So we do study the geography of the continents. And so this year, school year, we're studying the geography of the whole world. So we started in August with, what did we start with? Norway and Sweden and Finland, I think, and the European countries. And then we did Asia. And so now we're moving over to North America. So we were studying every single country, and we were going to kind of just clump the United States a little bit less, like I said, study it sort of as a whole and not study each state as much. And this happened the last time I did this also with my kids, like many years ago. We get to a lot of those countries, like all the stands, like Uzbekistan, Pakistan, Kyrgyzstan, some of those, Romania, Bulgaria, Iraq, like they get kind of boring just every day learning about a new country that we'll probably never go to. We don't have any desire to go to, that we don't have any reason to want to learn about it, I guess, for these kids in these ages. They're just not interested in it and stuff. So we started clumping those ones to one day, we'll just kind of clump them together, and we changed our calendar to make sure we had more time for the states. And all the kids voted that they wanted to learn a state a day so they could go in depth with all of the states. And it really makes sense because they are most likely going to travel to all the states in their life. They are going to get job opportunities in those states. They're at least going to apply for jobs in some of the states, and they'll want to know what their culture is like there, and the foods that they eat, and the climate there, and what the topography of the state is like, the politics of the state are like, much more than learning about Rwanda and Laos and other countries that they probably will never travel to, and it's just not close to home. So I do believe it's important that we did the whole continents, and we did all the countries, but we started clumping them together, and we kind of skipped over some of the smaller ones. And we do watch student news, which is like CNN 10, which is like 10 minutes of news for students, and they'll mention those other countries and have videos of things that are happening in them, some of the wars or famines or whatever, earthquakes there. And so I think it's been really good that they at least have that exposure, even if I didn't go super in depth with those countries. But we have been having so much fun studying the states. Like all of a sudden their enthusiasm just like lit up, like they're getting kind of bored with those other countries. Like I said, because they're never going to go there or apply for jobs there or anything. Just like the big ones, of course, like if we ever went on vacation, like where would you go? Like for me, I'd probably pick France or Switzerland. I'd love to see the Alps, maybe Great Britain, Scandinavian countries, like the main ones. I wouldn't pick those other countries either. So it does make more sense to study the states more in depth, because there's a good chance we're going to take road trips through them. There's a good chance that they'll know people from there. There's a good chance our family members will live there. Like I had a brother move to Iowa many years ago, and so it was just like all of us like Iowa, like do we even know anything about Iowa? It wasn't ever a top choice, but he got a great job there, and then he moved to Minnesota. So it was like the states are just so close to home. So I think it was important, but really I followed their lead, and they lit up when we got to study the states, and they love doing their state, the state reports, papers that they fill out. and the state foods and the state animals and stuff, because it is so relatable, because it's so close to us, more than the foreign countries. The foreign countries are just kind of like over their heads at these ages. But I feel like I gave them enough taste of those countries that they'll, if they want to learn more about it, they can go look them up. If they ever hear about a study abroad opportunity there, then they will be like, hey, yeah, I remember learning about that in school. I do want to go there, which is in the case of Alexis. Like, she really did want to go to Romania because we had studied the gymnast there, and a few other events there. So it already, she knew a little bit about it, so she wanted to go there, which she is going there for her study abroad this summer. And all my kids have loved to travel, and I love that. And they said it's because of learning about it in geography and learning as much as we wanted and asking questions about it and eating the foods that they eat there that made them want to go experience these other cultures. So what other things you say? So that is a fun thing about homeschooling, is that we can study this, in depth. And like Caitlin, she really wants to know the state bird of everybody and the state, like the chickens and stuff, because she's really into birds right now. And I think it was Madeline who loved the state flowers, so it's fun to pick out what they're interested in. And if they feel like memorizing it, go ahead. Like, it's not going to hurt them. You said it would not be beneficial for future knowledge. And so I think that's just my own opinion. Like, I think because I grew up in a traveling family, we sight saw and we saw tons of historical sites and national monuments across the United States, that I feel like the United States is way more relative, I think that's the right word, and applicable to me in my life than foreign countries. So I'm hoping my kids will also love to travel all these states. And so, and we just love to see what, like the waterfalls or the mountain ranges or the prairies, just to see what it's like, our nation that God made for us. And then we love to learn about the history of each state and when they were admitted to the Union, and what side they were on in the Civil War and the Indian Wars, like the Western states. And then, we're learning right now, like the New England states. And so those are really fun to learn about, so much natural nation's history and signing the Declaration of Independence and all those battles and everything. So I think it's really fun. And then it says, seems like English, LA, and math would take precedence in teaching. So yes, my kids do their own English every day and their own math. And so of course they are doing those. I just don't video them because everyone's in their own book and it's kind of boring, so. But for sure, they do their own personal subjects by themselves. And then we come together for history. And so this is the next question is, do the kids do the same geography lessons regardless of the grade they're in? And so yes, they do, if they choose to. So how we've done it is they have their own math book and spelling, like grammar, their language arts, whatever, the reading type of things. And then they like a piano. I should have brought up their checklist with me. Piano, they usually do like a foreign language by themselves. And then science, we always did together, at least like kindergarten through 6th grade. We've done Apologia Science, and it's kind of meant for all of the grades. And you can, for all those elementary school grades, and there are like 8 different books you could choose from. You can do botany and zoology, astronomy, physics, a little chemistry. So you just pick a different one each year, but it's geared for all those ages. And so we do them all together. The middle school would either join us if they still felt like it, especially if it's like the human body or something they really are wanting to do with us, or they did their own. There's like 2 middle school books, I think, and so they could do one of those on their own. And then high school has their own Apologia Science books also that they usually did on their own, except, here and there, a few kids just still did it with us. But for history, we've always done it all together, and we've loved it. Like, that's just our main subject that we come together and do, and it's just like a bonding time. The big kids help the little kids or get to spend time with them. I get to spend time with them. I don't know, just so many, it's just like a magical experience to all be hanging out together. It's just really fun. So, so Kylie did it all the way till she was a 12th grader. She just loved to do it with us. And I think Madeline did. Spencer didn't. I think his 12th grade year, he went to the public school and took a US AP history class because he wanted to, get AP credits. So like that was fine. And then Thomas didn't want to do like our group subjects with us the last couple of years, and like that's fine too. That's that was great. So it's up to them. But all my girls have wanted to still do it through high school. But I do if you're interested. We do I have so many thoughts in my head. I don't know which one to say first. So first I'll just say that we rotate through them. So we'll do, like this person says, we've done like ancient history one year, and then we'll do more like a, middle ages kind of world history. And then we'll do early American history, and then we might do like middle American history. And we've done the 20th century just for the whole year. And that's the course that I sell on my website, and it's just phenomenal. And that is our favorite one. Like the best memories ever. It's just packed full of so much stuff you can learn. And it's so relatable because it was closer to our time period, and we have the things that were invented, and we kind of heard the scientists that were invented. Much more relatable than the ancient history. So that's one's our favorite. But then I'll just repeat those over again, and then I'll throw in the geography. So probably like every 5 or 6 years, I'm repeating the same classes, and so that they'll get them at least twice throughout their years. So that answers that about like the geography and studying the world, and then the history. And so the same geography lessons. So this year is geography, and we haven't done it in a long time. And next year we'll probably go to like ancient history or something. So it's not like I do geography every year. What else was I going to say? And so the little kids will just do what they can. So when I've had like 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds, if they just want to like color over a state map, like that's perfectly fine. We've like acted things out. So if we're doing ancient history, then I'll go and hide things in the sandbox, and they have to like come pretend to be archaeologists and discover things. And so, like little kids help out, but like even the 11th graders, like, oh, this is cool. Like they have fun watching, they have fun just doing hands-on things. I feel like because they think everyone else thinks I'm too old for this. It's great that I'm actually not. They like to sculpt with us when we're sculpting something. So yes, they all join in if they decided that at the beginning of the year, say, are you doing history with us this year? And they, in or out, let's just say yes or no. But girls always have been, and the 2 boys hadn't been. They wanted to do it on their own. But it's fun. And then we also pick like the read aloud books that are historical, that go along with the places that we're studying. And we'll read it, either geography books if we're studying countries, or the time period books if we're studying history. And we'll do art projects with it, and we'll study musician about it. So there's kind of like 4 subjects in one. The older kids, I'll make them have like write essays about authors. So if we're doing like early American history, we might have them learn all about Louisa May Alcott and read 2 of her books, or Emerson or whoever. Like I'll have them study them in depth. And of course, I'm not going to ask the 4-year-old to do that. But it's just really fun. So you can go like make them do a whole bunch of stuff, or ask them to, or they assign them to. For the older kids, and they just sort of want to, they're like, hey, can I do a report on this musician? And I'm like, sure, go for it. Whereas the younger kids, maybe they just are just tracing Mozart. They just write his name, just learn to spell his name, or color his picture, or write a couple of notes, or draw Austria, or whatever it is. So it's really fun. You can tailor it to all ages. Okay, maybe this should be their last question because I talk a lot. If you are against traditional school, why do all of your kids attend college on free scholarships? Okay, so I'm not against traditional school. I guess it's hard to explain. I'm in my head, I pretend like all schools are perfect. So I say if there was a school that was just down the street and it was absolutely perfect, my kids could walk to it, would I still choose to homeschool? And it's always been yes. The kids have always still really wanted to homeschool, especially because it's long hours. So now if it was only like 9 to 12 and it was perfect school and down the street, they probably would go to it if they just loved it. But where it's like 7:30 to 3:30, then the kids have always said they still want to school at home because they love being able to choose what they learn, spend as much time on it as that they want to, go in depth as they want. They don't want to sit in a desk. They want more time outside. We're here to like be homesteaders and live a country life and have plenty of time with our animals and our yard and building projects and using that as part of our homeschool experience or education. But if we were to live in town, like if I had stayed in Utah and Nathan stopped sending us the child support, I probably would have sent them all to school because they're all neighborhood schools close by. The whole neighborhood went there. I could carpool. I didn't know many homeschoolers in Utah anyway, so all the neighbors were going to it. So I feel like we would probably have done that so that I could go get a job, at an 8 to 5 job or 8 to 3 job or whatever. So I'm not against traditional school. in that way. You're probably going to find all these things. Well, sometimes you say you are, sometimes you say you're not. So I pretend like they're perfect when I still decide to homeschool. Like I haven't really researched schools, and I'm not like, so I don't want to like say they're terrible. I hear bad stories from people or stories of, so I'm like, well, I'm glad I chose to homeschool, but I haven't looked into it to prove to myself why homeschooling is better or anything like that. So I really don't know what our schools are like local or anywhere. But I do love kids being able to have freedom in choosing what they want to learn and be able to play outside a lot and having a lot more free time, especially the younger ages. Up to high school, just having them have plenty of creative free play time where they are bored, they can come up with their own ideas, learn what they want to learn and play. I feel like kids really need to learn to play. I could talk about that a lot. So I'm not really against traditional school after, like high school or even high school years, because kids aren't playing as much and they're eager to learn and they're wanting to figure out their life and go to a college and career, more motivated like that. So definitely I'm for college because their kids are naturally ready to go and sit in classes like that. But I do love college more than elementary school, even because you can pick your own schedule. And I don't think any of my kids are sitting in seats like from 8 to 3. Like they don't have that many classes that they're just back to back sitting all day long like they are in elementary school. They might only have like 3 classes a day. They have a class and then have a couple hours and then a class. So they have the freedom to like control their schedule, to pick the classes that are most interesting to them or that fit with their major. They can work. I also love that everything's right there, that they live on campus and it's like right there, or they live slightly off campus. Everything's walkable. So they can just go, they can take harp classes, they can take bowling classes, they can take ice skating, ones that I don't offer at my house because they're expensive or you have to travel. They just can walk and go there and learn. They're with all their, peers, awesome other upstanding men and women. So it's a great experience for them, live independently. So yeah, I'm all for college. And I'm grateful that they got scholarships through either grades or like through the college or through other public means. So hopefully that answers that. I'm sure I missed some things that I would like to say, but I never judge anybody. If your schools are working for you and your kids and you're loving it, then like that's awesome. I love public school myself. I had a very tiny school, a beautiful campus with lots of trees. We had lots of recess. I mean, we played outside and played forts and swung and played hopscotch. Like I loved school. I loved my teachers. We had a lot of music time. We sang around the piano. I thought it was a great school. Long bus rides though, so I feel like I kind of wasted a lot of time on buses as a kid. But so if school's working great for you, I value teachers, I value education. Do whatever is best for you. And my college kids too. If they love college, go to college. If it's not working for them, I'm fine if they don't. So I think this is probably long enough for this one. So maybe I will stop it and do the Nathan questions on the next one. So thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.